Which battlefields?
Any place in particular?
I dreamt at Ostagar. I witnessed the brutality of the Darkspawn and the valor of the Ferelden warriors. I saw Alistair and the hero Ferelden light the signal fire, and Logain's infamous betrayal of Caelan's forces.
Ooh. Tell me what happened, because I didn't play Origins.
I've heard the stories. It would be interesting to hear what it was really like.
That's just it. In the Fade, I see reflections created by spirits who react to the emotions of the warriors. One moment, I see heroic wardens lighting the fire, and a power-mad villain sneering as he lets King Caelan fall. The next, I see an army overwhelmed and a veteran commander refusing to let more soldiers die in a lost cause.
You can't tell which is real.
It is the Fade. They are all real.
I like that there's... I like the fact that they're always kind of hinting at that kind of idea. Now that's assumably coming from one of his soldiers, who doesn't know exactly what's going on in the mind of Logain. The latter rather than the former. The former obviously coming from one on the field. But Logain, I'm torn on Logain. If you've watched my Origins Let's Play, you'll know that. Because... you can see all his actions, you can see through the lens of he's doing what he thinks is right to protect Ferelden, but he's misguided into what the real threat is. Because he's hearing that Caelan is interacting with the Orlesians, and he wants to bring in their soldiers. And once you bring in the soldiers to fight the Blight, what happens if a mob who remembers the so recent war, the so recent kind of war and resistance against Orlais, a mob forms, wounds or kills soldiers? How will Orlais react? Will they use that as an excuse to try and reconquer Ferelden? And for a man who was given so much for the independence of Ferelden, can he really do that? Or there's obviously the classic one, the kind of more accepted one, which is he was doing it to take the power. He was doing it to usurp the throne, and he's Richard III, but and whether he's doing it to usurp the throne, whether he's doing it to take personal power rather than doing what he thinks is right for Elden, and they don't look that good. And also, he's the enemy. He's the principal antagonist in Origins, in comparison to the Archdemon, because the Archdemon doesn't really show up apart from like maybe 2 cutscenes in a boss fight. Whereas Logain keeps showing up, and you keep having little side quests and stuff about him. I don't know. Right, I've waffled enough about Logain in Origins. Let's not bring him into here. Why study the Fade?
What made you start studying the Fade?
I grew up in a village to the north. There was little to interest a young man, especially one gifted with magic. But as I slept, spirits of the Fade showed me glimpses of wonders I had never imagined. I treasured my dreams. Being awake out of the Fade became troublesome.
That sounds dangerous.
Spirits try to tempt you.
No more than a brightly colored fruit is deliberately tempting you to eat it. I learned how to defend myself from more aggressive spirits, and how to interact safely with the rest. I learned how to control my dreams with full consciousness. There was so much I wanted to explore.
You woke up though.
I gather you didn't spend your entire life dreaming.
No. Eventually, I was unable to find new areas in the Fade.
Wow.
Why?
2 reasons. First, the Fade reflects the world around it. Unless I travel,
Okay.
I would never find anything new.
Right.
Second, the Fade reflects and is limited by our imagination. To find interesting areas, one must be interesting.
Curses. Weird but good for you. Is that why you're here?
Is this why you joined the Inquisition?
I joined the Inquisition because we were all in terrible danger. If our enemies destroyed the world, I would have nowhere to lay my head while dreaming of the Fade.
I hope that works. Weird, but good for you. That's a natural. Clearly, well, weird, but good for you.
Well, it's not the worst reason I've heard to go out and enjoy life.
I'm glad to hear it. In truth, I have enjoyed experiencing more of life to find more of the fate.
How so?
You strengthen your body to deliver and withstand punishment. The muscles are an enjoyable side benefit. You have chosen a path whose steps you do not dislike because it leads to a destination you enjoy. As have I.
Right, thank you.
We'll talk later.
Goodbye.
Solus disapproves. He's going to be that guy, isn't he? He's going to be the guy that I quite like using and sometimes enjoy kind of conversing with, but I always end up getting him to disapprove of my choices. You know, there's always one. I can't think of who it'd be. Who was that? Oh, Fenris! He was the guy who always disapproved of me in 2, and Awakening it was Ogryn, and Origins... Nah, not many people disapproved of me in Origins. Really. I think it was kind of a bit of a mishmash.
Need something?
I have questions about Hawk.
I've read your Tale of the Champion, and I have a few questions.
That's a pretty common reaction. Go ahead.
You made up the Arashok fight.
There is no way Hawk really could have killed the Arishok. It would have started a war with the Qunari.
I was told later that the Qunari disavowed his actions. Apparently, the Arashok didn't get permission before he attacked Kirkwall, and the Qun didn't want another exalted march. When they finally sent a ship to haul the Red Dreadnought away, they just said, "We will never speak of this again." As far as I can tell, that's the Qun's version of an apology.
Okay.
Carry on.
More stuff, but not huge. Let's look at other things. I thought we really talked about Red Lyrium. Personal question.
Can I ask you something, Barry?
You want to talk about me? I'm flattered. Also inclined toward extravagant lies.
I guess. What do you do?
I'm not clear on your line of work. You're a merchant.
I'm a businessman. My family has a seat in the Dwarven Merchants Guild. Merchants buy and sell goods. Businessmen buy and sell stores. In my spare time, I manage a spy network, and occasionally, I write books.
What shops do you own then?
What sort of shops do you own?
Actually, we don't own shops. That was just an example. Mostly we invest in money lenders. Auction houses, a few mercenary companies, a couple of smithies. I think we own half a beet plantation in Ravane somewhere. Most of that's my brother's doing. Bartrand had business sense. Not much tact, but loads of business sense.
Not anymore. He's gone completely bananas and doolally. What books do you write?
You're an author. What kind of books have you written?
I've tried my hands in a few genres. My crime serials are my most popular. Hard in Hightown, guards breaking the rules to get things done. The Tale of the Champion is the most famous thing I've written, or infamous maybe. I started a romance serial once, Swords and Shields, but to be honest, I don't have a knack for romances. Most of my stories end in tragedy. Probably that says something unfortunate about me.
As a spy, could you do Liliana's job?
If you've run a spy network, why is Liliana our spy master?
Cassandra doesn't trust him.
With you, she's just a better spy master. The truly great ones can keep their distance. They don't get attached to their people. Me, I always wind up babysitting my informants and worrying about their families. We're in better hands with her.
Thanks, Barry.
No problem.
I could not be in that job. I'm not. I'd be terrible in anything to do with command. I think I said it a lot in the Mass Effect series of just I don't want people to die. People dying is bad. You hadn't noticed, Mr. Cullen.
Did you need something?
Anything I should know?
Is there anything I should know?
Redcliffe wasn't always a refuge for mages. Some of our recruits have family there. They fear for the place, as do I.
Tell me about your colleagues.
What do you think of the people you work with?
Who do you mean?
Josephine.
What do you think of our ambassador?
We have little in common. How she delights in meeting with nobles all day is beyond me. But I enjoy working with her.
Liliana?
How do you like working with Liliana?
The Inquisition would not exist without her.
I may not always agree with her methods, but she's more passionate about her cause than anyone. Cassandra may have declared the Inquisition publicly, but Liliana is just as responsible for its formation.
And the soldiers?
Are you satisfied with the Inquisition's forces?
Our numbers are small, but they suit our needs for the time being.
For the time
Some
being.
guards have joined us instead of following the order. They've proven invaluable in training new recruits.
Thank you.
I should let you get back to work.
So that makes me think that we should probably go to the Templars, if the Templars are useful, but getting mages might be good just for having the extra mage training for the few mages we do have.
What can I do for you?
How can we use you?
Iron Bull said the charges were at my disposal. Do you have any suggestions on how to use them?
Nothing jumps out at me. If I come up with any ideas, I'll let you know.
Thank you. Tell me about the charges.
Can we talk about the Bull's charges?
Best company you'll find from here to the Anderfells. In my time with the Chief, we've gone up against everything from bandits to magic trees. We're expensive, but you'll never doubt we're worth it. Want to know anything in particular?
Rules?
Are there rules for how mercenaries operate?
If you don't want some noble to treat you like bandits, yes. There's also a code of conduct most companies hold to. Keeps things civilized on the battlefield. We accept surrenders for ransom from mercenaries, nobles, and soldiers wearing a lord's colours. Our prisoners are treated well, injuries tended. We'd want the same for any of ours who got captured.
Yeah, it's a standard. We treat people well, and you treat us well. We all get along. Because especially other mercenaries, it may end up being this battle we're fighting out, next battle we're both employed by the same guy, and we've got to try and get on. Kind of makes sense. Abilities?
Do the charges specialize in anything from a tactical standpoint?
Bull doesn't want us large enough to work as an army. We're better as shock troops, as skirmishers. We've got archers for hitting enemy infantry, Dalish with more archery, and Skinner and her people on the flanks. Rocky handles fortifications and traps, and Stitches keeps us all fighting. They mostly hold back. I'll lead the frontline fighters with Grim, and the Chief goes wherever he can hit something.
Tell me about an interesting job.
You said something about everything from bandits to magic trees. I'll admit to some curiosity.
Brazilian forest?
Right. Sylvans.
Hmm.
That's what Dalish called them. Apparently spirits can possess trees, too. Some noble in the Dales, and they really don't like it when you call them Dalish nobles, had a haunted forest. His family had abandoned the land, but he wanted it back. The Chief bought us all axes, and in we went. Between the axes and the torches, the Sylvans weren't too bad. Worst part was the squirrels.
The Scoia'tael. They're here too. Ah.
We'll talk later.
Mr. Bull.
How's it going?
Tell me about the Kunari.
I'd like to know more about the Kunari.
All right. Hit me.
No thanks, you're taller than I am. How is growing up?
What's it like growing up under the Cullen?
The Tomasrans raise us in these units of kids all our own age. They're like teachers or chantry sisters. They also help figure out what jobs we should do. They had me pegged for military work early on. When they learned I could hit stuff and lie, they started training me for the Ben Hasra.
You didn't... no fact, yeah, for someone who's kind of... I assume that the chantry will be is very similar to kind of the Catholic... maybe not Catholic, well, probably Catholic. Certainly, well, the church. In Europe, the medieval period, which would almost certainly be Catholicism, with the Reformation was about 1515. Kind of, you've got the idea of the church family, everyone who goes along, being a member of a noble family, so this family blood connection. He's made a point that he can, he can message the Trevelyan's because of that familial bond, so this is going to be a thing you're kind of intrigued by, isn't it?
You never knew your parents?
No. I know for you folks, that's a big deal. The Tomasrans were like our parents, though. Taught us to read, helped us go to sleep, all the parent stuff. I remember the one who helped me build things with blocks. She laughed when I knocked everything down.
Okay. Day-to-day life.
How is everyday life different for Kunari?
Depends on your job, I guess. Some are just about the same. A baker in Valroyo gets up, gets dressed, and starts work. A baker in Parvolan does the same thing. They don't care about the Empire or the Mostly they worry about breaking eggs and hope the dough rises right.
Except that that baker isn't free.
It can't be exactly the same. The Kunari have no personal freedom.
Like the one in Valroyo does.
What freedoms do you figure that baker in Valroyo has? Life isn't about freedom. The baker in Parvolan wonders if she'll be given enough eggs to do her work. Will they come on time? Will the kitchen workers get her bread while it's fresh, or will they come late and blame her because it's stale? Same crap in Valroyo. People are just people.
Do you not marry?
I heard there's no marriage among the Kunari.
Yeah, that's true. Kunari love our friends like anyone does, but we don't have sex with them.
Kunari don't have sex.
Oh, we definitely have sex. They're Tomasrans who pop your cork whenever you need it.
So you don't marry?
I heard there's no marriage among the Kunari.
I've just said.
That's true. Kunari love our friends like anyone does, but we don't have sex.
Right, I've already had this conversation. I think I've had that conversation before. Cassandra!
Do you need something?
I want to talk about the Seekers.
Can you tell me more about the Seekers?
The Seekers of Truth were born from the original Inquisition long ago, when it united with the Chantry. Seekers stood above the Templars, watching over them but also investigating magical events they couldn't handle. We were meant to be incorruptible, above reproach. How seldom does reality match the ideal?
What are the Seekers?
But what are Seekers exactly?
Those who know anything of us think we are Templars. We do not use lyrium, however. Our abilities are different, as was our original purpose. We disciplined the Templars and were accountable only to the Divine. And not even her, truthfully.
Then who watched you?
So nobody ever watched over the Seekers?
It was the Divine's duty. But she could only do so much when the truth was hidden from her. The Templars have always feared us. When a Seeker arrived at a circle, they knew trouble was afoot. That kind of power is troubling. You begin to think you are the only one who can solve the world's problems. If you don't see a problem, it doesn't exist. If someone insists it does, they are the blind ones.
Could that be fixed?
You think that kind of problem could ever be fixed?
Possibly. Though the Seekers themselves would need to change. They were clearly not willing to, even though they abandoned everything they stood for to avoid it. In my heart, I believe they can still be salvaged, but not by their own hands.
How do you become a Seeker?
How does someone become a Seeker?
Most Seekers begin training in their youth. I was much older, an exception due to my noble birth. We train rigorously for years. Our bodies and minds must be elastic to undergo the vigil, and most fail even then.
The Vigil?
Is the Vigil some kind of initiation?
It is the rite every Seeker must go through in order to summon their gifts. A full year of fasting, prayer, and separation from all distractions, including other people. We empty ourselves of all emotion, focusing only on the purity of our devotion. And the moment it finally ends, it's wonderful. Faith realized. I cannot put it into words.
You were delirious, was it magic? It does sound wonderful.
I wish I could experience that.
If the vigil was not so arduous, I'd say more should attempt it. What if mages never needed to fear possession by demons? I'm told it is impossible, however. I suppose I'll never know the truth of it now.
What abilities do you have?
You mentioned that Seekers have different abilities than Templars.
Entirely. A Templar's abilities come from lyrium and are designed to hunt mages. Ours come from ritual and many years of dedicated training. We cannot be possessed by demons and are immune to mind control. Useful considering our role. Seekers can gain other gifts, so that depends on the individual.
And what are your gifts?
What kind of gifts do you have?
I can set the lyrium within a person's blood aflame. Both mages and Templars bend before my will. Some Seekers use it to interrogate, others simply to paralyze. Once there was a Seeker who could use it to kill. That particular gift is considered rare.
Okay, that's terrifying. Why did the Seekers rebel?
Why did your order turn against the Chantry?
We originally united with the Chantry for a treaty that stated they would keep mages under control. It was felt Most Holy had tacitly allowed the Circle of Magi to vote on its independence, thus breaking the treaty. The Seekers saw themselves as justified, and they led the Templars into a war of righteousness.
But you disagree.
You sound like you disagree.
We knew what was happening at Kirkwall, where the Mage Rebellion began. We looked into reports of Knight Commander Meredith's harsh treatment of her charges years earlier. But we found so many shocking cases of magical corruption, it was decided her actions were justified. If we'd been there when it happened, if we'd looked harder at the root causes...
You care deeply about it. Mages should be free. It was inevitable. I agree.
You're right. Something should have been done.
When faced with a problem, the Seekers would close ranks and crush it. We would find an answer, but only once we felt we weren't being coerced. The moment the mages voted for independence, our response was predictable. It was difficult to watch.
Thank you.
I've no more questions.
Well, I do about the Chantry, but I think we've run around and spoken to everyone. Almost an entire... Well, I was going to say almost an entire session. Not quite, but over an hour by the looks of things. That's at least 3 episodes of me waffling to other people. Not that the other videos aren't going to include me waffling.